So how long have you been doing the Something Wicked Film Festival?
So with the Something Wicked Film Festival, we've done it for, this will be our 6th year now. We're going on 6 years. And we decided to add the DocuFest, and we added a Fan Fest. The original plan was always to add these 2 other offshoots, but it took us 5 years to get everything together to be able to do it.
Right.
I mean, yeah, and before that, I did 3 years of another film festival. So I've had like the last 11 years doing nothing but film festivals. So.
Wow. And all of them in Atlanta?
Yes. Well, I did one that was actually in the middle of Atlanta for 2 years. We're just right outside of Atlanta in Gwinnett now.
Okay.
But I've also done one in Rome, Georgia, and Dahlonega, Georgia, and then Lawrenceville. So I've kind of like taken film festivals kind of around Atlanta and in the Atlanta area. Yeah, that's where the indie filmmakers are. So
right. What were you a director? Were you an actor? What was your love of films?
Writer and producer. I have directed a little bit, but mostly writer. I went to college myself to be a writer, but ended up studying film for theory and analysis instead. So then that got me into doing producing, and of course now I watch indie films all the time. So how about you? Did you guys formally go to a school, or did you like kind of learned on the by doing? Or
I came from journalistic and media background. So before we moved to Canada, I'm from Eastern Europe. So I was in media and journalism, like TV and stuff. So basically after that, I just transferred my expertise to filmmaking, because I had a passion for filmmaking and specifically documentary filmmaking. And now I'm like discovering the feature film filmmaking for me, like drama film. So it's something totally new, especially for somebody who was a journalist, who was just documenting what's already existing. And now when you just come up with totally new fantasy worlds, it's like totally new experience.
Yeah, that's funny, because the person I just spoke to earlier, he came from doing music, was his background. And so he's been doing all these musical based features, and then all of a sudden he just did his first fiction film, which ended up being a musical. And so he's in post-production on that. So his passion was music, so he started documenting musicians and stuff, and he's kept with it. So
for me, my background was not in film. I have been on stage for a long time, and my voice was used. It was mainly in terms of voiceovers. I was teaching choir. I moved into teaching, and I think Manny is waiting in the waiting room.
Yep.
So yeah, and then with regard to films, I was an actress in my first film that I was shot for is called A Bloody Mess, and that was an 11.5-minute short film that was on the theme of menstruation, and I played a traditional South Asian mother and the stigma that was associated with talking about menstruation with her daughter. That was basically the theme of the film. And this film, Fear, Face Everything and Rise, is based on my life. It's based on things that I went through. And when I first approached Manny, hello, both Manny and Serge, I had met Manny at another event, and he had mentioned briefly about the Rising Star experience and what it is. And then when I approached Manny about it, he said, I want to introduce you to the DOP and my other team members. And so we had a call, and I basically had to share with them what my idea was and why it was important. And I think right away from that initial call itself, they saw the potential that this was a story that is not just my story and it's just pertaining to me, but can actually be applicable to lives and many lives, not just that here in Canada, but is a story that many women face right across the world in many cultures. And the bigness of that was seen right away. And so we started working, we started planning on this right from May of 2019 in terms of our initial meetings and deciding. We had staged out everything, paced it out. We had done, both Manny and Serge had worked on the storyboarding and a basic sort of story idea. We started shooting in October, or we decided we were going to shoot in October. 2 days before, or 3 days before we were slated to start shooting, I was in a major car accident.
Oh, wow.
And I actually didn't know if I was going to even be able to walk because I had a lot of injury and I was in a lot of pain. But I also knew the amount of work that had gone on to bring it up to that point and the money that's involved, when you have a crew ready and you have everything ready to go, and then to put it off means it's a lot more production. I'm so glad that we decided to go ahead with it. I popped some painkillers and we were off to shooting, and we took it in little bits and pieces. I think Serge captured over 10 hours of footage, and none of the footage in the film is scripted. There is no script. It's all raw. So
we have enough footage for another film of Annie's. But
yeah. In fact, we were actually contemplating whether to do it in a 10-part series because there were so many things that were not shared. We had to sort of cut and chop. I mean, that was the hardest part. I think Serge, it was funny because for 3 months, Serge and I were in each other's company constantly, him and our assistant director, Natalie. And Manny, behind the scenes with what was going on and keeping tabs and things and whatever. And Serge and I were in each other's company for 3 months, nearly every other day sort of thing, right? And then all of a sudden, when the last shooting stopped, the last voiceover was recorded because there was a little bit that was voiceover done. He stopped calling and I went through withdrawal. And I was like, where are you? Like, you don't call me anymore. He goes, but I see you every day. In fact, I see you from the morning, the time I wake up till I sleep at night.
You got addicted to me.
So it has that effect on
I did. It's so, I think the beauty of this film is that once I shared my story, it became their story too. Mm. And that was the beauty of being able to work with both of these individuals, because yes, it is my story. Yes, it's my life. Yes, I spoke in it. And they have seen that through my story, but each of them believed in me because of what they saw. And they enabled me to do what I did, which was really, really super cool. I think any film, if you have a crew that puts in more effort, because as an indie filmmaker, it's a money aspect of it, right? It's the amount of effort and time that you put in and how much can you. And the very fact that we dedicated so much of our own time to this project, and it became like a passion project for all of us, that was very indicative. And so when we're all reaping the rewards right now, the film was launched in October, and we've already gained 22 awards.
Nice.
We have 22 awards that we've won. We have another 49 to go. So it's, I think someone said to me that I am going to need to have another poster just for my film laurels.
Yes, you have to have the clean poster and then the one, your festival poster with all the laurels on it. I always get a kick out of seeing those posters, because then I'm like, oh my God, that looks like it's been in 100 film festivals.
Yeah.
It's always a good thing.
Right. And then if you have that many peers, that many people who are viewing it and saying, wow, this is good, then there must be something, right? So we've had a lot of people coming and approaching the three of us and our music team and all the other individuals with, where can we see it? Where can we see it? And it's not available out to public, right? Because some of the festivals have very stringent requirements saying, you know, we don't want it seen anywhere, and it has to be like this, and we've got to wait out that period, sort of, especially till the end of this year, and then we can sort of start to open it up a little bit more.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of people that were involved, from the musicians who are top-notch musicians. One of the musicians was a former Juno-nominated artist. Another musician is someone who is called by the Indian government to do a lot of the government Heritage India music for their sites. Another one of the musicians is a former student of mine. The footage that was captured in India is real footage. The drone footage is all real footage that was captured by friends of mine. So there's a lot of bits that came into play that I never imagined when we started it was going to actually come together like that. And it was just, we all roped in all of our resources. We roped in the networks that we had and the time commitment, you know, to just get this out. Guys, I've dominated the conversation, so go ahead. That's
all right. We're listening, like, and absorbing every word.
That's exactly what I'm doing. I was like, and some of the what I was going to ask you've already answered, which is very.
Yeah, you just wind Annie up and let her go, and that's what 10 hours of footage was about.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So as Annie mentioned, the editing was the toughest part. From one on the one hand, it was like creating a piece of art. On the other hand, I felt myself, and my team felt myself as a butchers, you know, with hands and blood, you know, because you just cut away everything you can cut away, you know, and leave only the most essential things. And the Annie's personality is so bright and so strong, and it's so strong in her weaknesses and her vulnerabilities that even my editing team, they asked me this simple question that showed me a lot about the story. That they asked me, is it okay to fall in love with the main character, you know? So, and I mean, in platonic meaning of this word, but still, so because they saw it so many times, they got attached, you know, like Annie got addicted to me, Colin, they got attached to Annie while editing it, you know, and I got attached to Annie while editing it. So because we had an inner joke among us that Annie lived her life only one time, but I lived her life like 50 times probably. So I felt it much closer to me.
That's very interesting.
It was quite interesting because for Serge and you know, his wife, they came from Europe, and a lot of what I was sharing about what I went through the South Asian community stuff was something that was very new and they were learning it for the first time, and they were astonished that it happened. So their own reactions gave me an idea that many people don't realize what many women are going through from Orthodox sort of type backgrounds. And I think that was insightful for me. Manny also, we're both from South Asia, but he grew up in a very different type of environment than I did. And even for him, he had two brothers. In my family, it was a brother and a sister, and I was the elder one. And the women in our family, girls are raised much more stricter than the boys are. And so his experience even was very different when I was narrating it as well.
Did you find adding the narration at the end difficult, or did you was this an easy process now that you'd seen the whole film kind of put together?
No, not easy at all. Not easy at all. And you see, the ending was probably the most problematic part, because the story doesn't end actually. The story is like ongoing, and you need to somehow show the drama of it and all vulnerabilities and all wounds, but at the same time you need to bring hope to women, because otherwise they would say, okay, the world is so creepy and bad, and okay, no hope. So, and we did our best to show the Annie's strengths in going through and opening her vulnerabilities in the first place and sharing her vulnerabilities, but at the same time, showing that she's strong enough to go through them, not deny them, not hide them, not suppress them, but just open up and go with those vulnerabilities. And this is her strength. So, and I think we ended film on this vibe. And I think it created very, very good message, because you see, I was raised in an environment where it's nice to be like successful, as we have like seen many times around us. So you need to be successful. And when you are asked like, how are you? You should be answered like nice, good, even if you're not nice and good, even if everything falling apart, but still it's nice and good. So, and this creates, my wife actually is psychotherapist, so I know from her that it creates very deep neurosis in us, that just raises the inner pressure step by step, until it explodes. So, and just about a while ago, I don't remember exactly, I had a conversation with a singer and composer here in Toronto, and he gave me this advice from the point of view of a creative person. And he told me that it's not always the encouragement that you need to bring to people, and it's not always the right advice you need to bring to people to get them better. But sometimes it's just sharing your pain with them already gives them this healing effect. And it was so new to me, so revolutionary to me. And I think with this film, we just shared the pain, share it, as Annie put it, very, very raw pain without any like right answers, you know, just sharing the pain and sharing the way that Annie went through.
Yeah.
And this became the power of this film, I think.
And to be honest, when Annie first approached me with this film and told me the story, I'm like, okay, how the heck are we gonna do this? Like, that was my first thing. How the heck are we gonna do this? And then to find out that we couldn't share the whole story. There was parts that were missing from the story that then also added that extra burden. Like, okay, so Annie wanted to respect, you know, your husband and people in the family and their children, which was fine. I said, you know, we have to honor that. If you want to leave out a certain person or whatever, that's fine. We don't want to do anything to, you know, bash anybody. But then as a filmmaker, we're like, okay, well, if we can't share that part, the audience may want to say, okay, well, from his perspective, I want to see. So it's like we had a piece of the puzzle, but we were missing a big piece. And we're like, okay, now we had to get creative. And I think that's where Serge and his team did an amazing job in terms of putting the story together and leading them through a journey, like a I feel like the film is a roller coaster, up, down, right? You have highs, lows, and expressing the story. And, you know, to me, I feel like this film was a co-creation between the three of us, really. It was a co-creation. I think when you have a positive story, a positive message, that's the first thing. And the fact that we all created this together and the amount of resourcefulness that came from the three of us are, you know, from the people that we attracted into the film, right? How we're going to get the supporting cast. This all kind of came as we went. So this taught me that when you set an intention with definiteness, you will attract all of the resources and all the things you need to make this film a success. Because at the start, we had no clue. And to go from there to now creating something that's, you know, won 22 awards is just amazing. It shows that I created what I did to create positive change for the world first, right? How do we create social impact on a global scale? And I think when you have a positive message and the right team around you and the right intention, you know, everything's going to fall in place. So I think it all started with that. So I'm very grateful for Annie and Serge to be a part of this creation with them.
We started the marketing for this, Kevin, long before the film was even finished. And we started just talking about it. We talked about so many things around it because I didn't know what they had created. I was dying to see what Serge had put together. And then we just had the trailer, which, you know, it went out. But the trailer for me, it was only a small drop in the bucket as to actually what it was. And then when I saw the first cut, you know, there were things that needed to be changed, but it was like, wow. But I think the icing on the cake was how we did the final film with the explanation of the portrait. That was the most brilliant ending to that film, because the very fact, and I don't know if you had a chance to see the film yet, Kevin,
Yeah,
but the very fact at the very end, and we're finished the shoot, and I sniff and I go, does anyone have any Kleenex? And I'm in my own house.
Yeah.
I'm in my own living room and I'm asking them, and it was not at all scripted. It was just a moment.
Nothing was scripted.
None of that was scripted, but it was the humor of the fact that there I was in the moment, I'm crying, and then the cameras are off and I'm like, does anyone have any Kleenex? And it was
Serge's job on that.
It was a really good job.
That was Serge's job. I was asking her questions, but I was getting the surface answers, but we were trying to dig deep, and then, you know, I said, Serge, you know, have a try, and he went in, and Serge, that must have been tough, because
thank you, Manny. Thank you. But it was a really like ethical problem for me, because I started this journalistic drilling inside, and I'm just feeling that I'm drilling the nerve now, you know, and Annie's crying, and the human being in me just yells, stop it, you know, but the journalist in me says, press on, you know.
Yeah, so there was a lot of footage that was very heartbreaking, that I appreciate that both Manny and Serge were respectful, that they didn't show that in the final cut. There's a lot of the story that's been missed out that is really hard for me to share, but also for people to really realize how difficult it was for me. Two of the components that I didn't want to happen is I didn't want the film to be a sore spot with anyone in any way. I didn't want it to be hurtful, that it should be a film that's educated for other women, for anyone really that's finding themselves marginalized, but also for couples that are going through divorce or through a breakup of a family, and the impact that staying or not staying has on children, and the responsibilities that we have as adults in how do we be okay apart, and that it is okay to be apart, and that dialogue that happens in that. So that was the most important part for me. It wasn't about mentioning names of my kids or names of my ex or his family or anything like that, even including my parents in that and how conservative they were. It had to be done in a very ethical way, because I have to live with them after, right? I have to see them after. So I can't burn those bridges. It's not stuff that I wanted burning. And so the very fact that both Manny and Serge were respectful to my wishes, and the manner in which they put it together, is really the brilliance of their editing and their guidance on that. So the storyboarding, making sure the story flowed, and then Serge with his team in making sure that the right footage from those 10 hours was used to tell that story.
Yes, exactly. Because when Annie is totally in the state of this emotional mess, you know, and to some extent she's not controlling herself, and she was saying things that would put her vulnerability up and bring some exposure to the family. But I didn't want to stop her in those moments, because I wanted to flow out of her. But of course, I was making some marks that this is not for the film, this we will not include in the film. But for the sake of this emotional state, I chose to proceed during the interview with that.
That's one of the things I want to comment on, is that the way that you edited it, it made it seem as though it is a personal story from Annie's perspective, but not dwelling too much on those personal issues, but just her experience is kind of universal to other women. And that's where I think the emotional connection is going to come through. And that's one of the things I really enjoyed about the way you were able to bring that whole story together. I thought like you did a really good job on that.
And it's focusing on one issue, but then bringing it wider to say, look, this is an issue that not just Annie going through, a lot of other women are going through. And then relating it back to the bigger subject, that's why we had Rab and Satish on as well, bringing their expertise on the subject as well. So to kind of widen it, and it was just an amazing job overall. Like, I'm so grateful. But it's a story that it's something now that Annie has for the rest of her life, and it's going to be something that is going to continue to impact so many lives. So that's what's so powerful about making this documentary film.
Exactly, because in the process of producing the film, Annie had this idea that this will be the key to an answer to a lot of women in South Asian community. But very quickly we realized that this is far, far broader than that. So it's not South Asian, it's like global women's community. And I can partly relate with this story about women in Eastern Europe, for example. And I'm pretty sure a lot of cultures have the same problems and the same challenges in women. So it's very, very global.
Yeah, it's very timely too. This is like the perfect time for this type of story to be told. We're all looking for more stories about strong women, and Annie, you seem to have done a lot of stuff in your time. You know, a lot of creative stuff, which is actually great. So that you're not just a like a tech person. You also have a lot of creative avenues as well. So you're bringing them all that together, and you're actually, the way the film is presented, it's showing that women can do anything that they put their minds to, which is, you know, I mean, I love the message that you guys put together in this film. It's a great message.
Thank you. I think for a lot of women, we have a lot of skills that often when we are married, we tend to put what we want to do aside because we feel this obligation and this responsibility to take care of first our partner and then our children and or the extended family. And I did something that was very different, and that was I moved from Toronto. I grew up here in Canada, but I moved from Toronto to India, and I lived in India for 15 years. And I went to a place that was very rural, where I didn't speak the language and I didn't know the culture at all. Even though I was technically Indian, I was really a whitewashed Indian in the sense that I had a diluted version of what it meant to be Indian. And for all intents and purposes, I could wear the costume. The minute I opened my mouth, I was saying things that they knew right away. I wasn't Indian really, because I was very Western. I grew up in Canada where there were no distinctions for me when I go to school about gender, male or female. We sit next to each other in classes. We talk to them. We interact with them. I had friends like, you know, that were there, both genders. I didn't see color. I didn't see social status in any way. We all just grew up together, sort of thing. But then when you go to India, and I was really getting into my adulthood at that point, I was exposed to things that I had never even been exposed to before, and it was supposed to be part of my culture, and I was learning things for the first time, and it was really a lot of reverse racism, not I would say, but reverse culture shock for me, that I never experienced. And then to raise my children in a community and a culture that was much more closed-minded towards the role of women, but for me, not knowing that, having been raised myself in a community and a culture that was much more open-minded, I was seen as an anomaly. I was seen as a troublemaker. I was seen as someone who was not towing the line of expectation, and I was embarrassing the family and all of that sort of thing. But it wasn't because I was intentionally doing it. It was because I didn't have any other knowledge base to do it. But that was the sort of message that was constantly reiterated to the children, to everyone else, was that she doesn't toe the line. She doesn't follow, you know, she's too much of this. And you're not too much of anything. I kept stifling that. I kept hiding my shine. I kept hiding my light because I was told that I was too much of stuff. And when I actually decided that I had enough, it was when I was about 46, and I decided that I had lived more life, really, Kevin, than I had left living. And it was that raw awakening of the fact that I would not have 46 years left where I would have all of my senses available, that I had all of my mobility available. And it's this raw awakening for women that happens worldwide, that, oh my gosh, we have lived our life. We've raised our families. We've been that ideal daughter, the ideal wife, the ideal mother. We've done it for everyone else. When are we going to put ourselves first? And it happened for me in my mid years, right? In my middle age. And this message is really for young girls, for young women, for anyone really to live their dreams right from get-go. That artist was always there. The artist was there as a 3-year-old kid that stood on stage for the first time to perform. That artist has always been there. But that artist was stifled because I felt that the artist was never going to be accepted. And now the artist has come back in full force with a vengeance.
And I think that's what resonates with so many people, right? That we all have a dream or something we want to achieve, but we suppress it, we push it down. So I think F.E.A.R says for you to, you know, it's basically a story to say, follow your dream, follow your passion. Yeah. You know, who cares? Overcome fears, overcome hurdles, but more importantly, express yourself, you know, to the fullest of who you want to be, because there's a lot of people and things in life that want to tell you you're not good enough. There's a lot of people around you that want to say, oh, don't do this, act this way. Or, you know, like in Annie's case, be this type of woman. But there's something deeper within us that is seeking expression outwards. And I think that's what makes Annie's story so magical, is that she went with that. She followed that guidance. You know, a lot of women wouldn't have had the courage to, you know, leave her husband or leave that particular situation. And that's why I think a lot of people can resonate with that, because deep down people are looking for something. They're looking for that guidance. They're looking for that awakening. And I think this film really, you know, plants the seed in people, especially women, to say, look, hey, look, this is your time, you know, go out there, do something, live fully. So at the end of your life, you can say, you know what? Yes, I was a good mother, a good daughter, but you know what? I lived my life exactly how I want to live. And I didn't let anybody tell me otherwise.
Yeah, you bring up something very important. One of the things I got through the film is Annie's courage. You've gone through so much stuff, Annie, that when you present it, or when it is presented in your film, I'm hoping that other women get the courage that you had, and I'm also hoping that the male viewers learn to open up and be receptive to the needs of women, and that they're not stuck to this one little ideology that an older generation like to think of them. I'm hoping that that's what happens, because the film does a great job in bringing both of those points in. But courage, it's all about courage. We all just need to be a little bit more, have a little bit more courage for us to grow. And you put together, all three of you put together a great film that allows that to come through very clearly, because of what Annie had to go through and how you guys presented it.
I think you know, as Annie mentioned in the film, that it's time to start a dialogue, mm-hmm. And the very storyline, I was very conscious through all the film process, so that it wouldn't have this like aggressive feminist connotation in that, you know. So like, okay, we're against you man, and you are like bad guys and we are good guys, you know. So it was more like, hey man, this is how we feel about all this. Like, this is our wounds that maybe consciously or not so consciously you just give us and inflict to us. And I think the whole film has this line of a dialogue. So the very credo of the film is the time for starting the dialogue is now.
Yeah,
and this is it.
That was very important for me, because Kevin, I think one of the number one things that failed for me was the lack of communication, and communication on the same level. And that was the number one thing that I was saying within the film, is that we have to be able to talk to each other. We have to be able to hear and give that other person time to speak. And that is the first step to being able to even begin a little bit of understanding, whether it's from a male perspective, a female perspective, the children's perspective, whether you want to be friends, you just have to be able to communicate. And that if that communication is there, you can build a lot on that communication.
Yep. Excellent. So Wow, that's yeah. I mean, you brought out a lot of deep meaning in your film, and hopefully, when people watch this, they get a better idea on the film itself and your intentions for the film and all that. Because that's essentially why we do these for our film festival. It's like there's a short Q&A after a film never gives the audience enough perspective from us as filmmakers. So I'm hoping that people get a better perspective after stuff like this. So I'm glad we were able to have this conversation like this, especially on your film. So
Thank you. It's an honor. This is actually
Thank you.
the first time that the three of us have actually had an opportunity to speak to a festival director and share the insights behind the scenes of the things that went into the film that people don't know. You know, the pain that went into the film, the amount of effort that it took to actually take hours and hours of footage and then weave a story that's still impactful. The very fact that the three of us are very new to start the process, even in putting the film out for various festivals, I didn't know. I'm the marketing person for the film. I didn't know how to do it at all. I'd never done it before. And so every time we got a nomination, I would flip it to both of these guys, and Manny would come back with, okay, you just need to get 3 more. And it went on. So 3 led to 6, led to 9, and he kept saying every time I sent it, he goes, just do 3 more, just do 3 more. And I was like, after the 12th one, I was like, okay, you better stop now. All right. Like, I met your mark.
I'm still going. Another 3.
So now I'm at 22. I'm at 22. And he's like, okay, well, next 3, like, haven't you got anything today yet?
So we're eternally grateful. Just grateful for the process, and grateful that, you know, we didn't know it would do that this well. So again, it's just what happens when you have something that you want to bring to the world, and it's something that is going to change lives. I guess things happen. But Kevin, we want to thank you so much for interviewing us. You're our first ones. You're officially our favorite film festival.
Really? Oh, I'm the only one so far. I love it. See,
So you have an exclusive interview. You can actually write it. Exclusive interview with the directors and co-creators and storyteller, actress of F.E.A.R. And that is exclusive to you right now. So
he's our favorite one because he's our first one.
Oh, I love doing these. I don't ever get to meet all of the filmmakers, even when I do the physical film festivals, which I hope I come back to real soon. I don't always get to meet all the filmmakers, but that's the one great thing about the COVID, the whole quarantine, is that with the last year and a half, I've been able to do like 10 times more interviews than I've ever done before with people from all over the world. So I'm always, this is great for me. This is the part I love about filmmaking. I love to talk to filmmakers and get their insights on their projects and what their next projects are and stuff like that. So it's great to hear this. You guys, today you're the 3rd interview I've done, and this is the first time I've had to interview anyone on nonfiction films. So I've only done interviews for fiction films. So this has been like an eye-opening. I've got so many different types of conversations I've had. This is great for me. So, but one last thing, is there anything any of you would like to say about your film for the people who are watching this or will watch this in regards to your film? Anything that, last words, so to speak?
Thank you, Kevin. What my message is for every single person who is watching this film, every single person who's been impacted by this film, is to impact someone else's life in a positive way. Every interaction that you have, every person that crosses your path is truly a blessing, and that you have a role in that person's life, whether it is that you leave them feeling better about themselves, you change their life in some way, or you're able to impart some words of wisdom or gain some words of wisdom from them. We have that responsibility to each other. What's COVID's taught us really in this last year is that we need to go back to the basic roots of what it means to be human, and to remember that it doesn't matter which culture you're from, which community, how much money you have, what job you have, what car you drive. It showed us very clearly that it didn't differentiate between who got it and who didn't get it. We're all really just one, and we're all just human around the world. So remember that.
Yeah. My message would be, we live only once. on this earth. And it's so meaningless to me to just for any person to suppress himself or herself under the will of the other person just because this other person thinks this way. And what I want to encourage people who will watch this film is, as Annie brilliantly put that in the film, to find their passion, to find something that ignites them from the very core inside, and just follow this passion no matter what, and to perceive life as, from cinematic point of view, let's say that our life are the like very long series, very long episodes. So every day is an episode in our life, is an episode of this TV show. And this everyday episode should have its beginning, its drama, its climax, its protagonists, and everything to make the day fulfilled. And if our life will constitute of such episodes, like film episodes, it will be very fulfilled in the end and along the way.
Nice.
Greatly said. And I'll just end with, that, every day you and I wake up with choices. We choose to focus on serving people. And I think a lot of people around the world, in most maybe non-white cultures, it's shocking to realize how many women there are that are in a similar position to Annie's, who continue to be content with being treated unequally, or who have, their dreams squashed because they were born into a certain culture where they had no control over. I think the ignorance with that, along with, like social heredity, the social heredity that was imposed upon them, has left many women never really living like a full life and never experiencing what they truly want. Fear Face Everything and Rise shows the courage of Annie Koshy as she shares her personal story from being just, an everyday woman to a successful businesswoman or entrepreneur. I think she's a role model for many women who are seeking to unshackle themselves from the cultural expectations and break free from the social stigmas that keep them boxed in. And this film also sheds light on the need to continue to have an open debate between women and their fight for equality and fair choice in pursuing their life passions and dreams, right? But I think of how people, both men and women, whose dreams are crushed because of how they think they should live based on society's expectations of them. And this puts a block on the person and stops them from expressing these amazing, bountiful gifts that they've been bestowed upon with, right? Yeah. So, and I feel a stronger connection with Annie and Serge because of this film, and this issue really plays on my heart. So I'm really involved in the subject matter, and to say the least, I hope F.E.A.R inspires many people to pursue their dreams and have the courage to do so, just like Annie did.